Hey everybody, good to be with you today. My name is Brent Morse, and time for ThinkScript studies on Thinkorswim. Hey, I know a lot of you were expecting Mike Fairborn. He's actually going to be out for the month of October, and so I'll be filling in for him a bunch. But I'm glad you're here, and what I want to do today is I want to share with you actually one of the most, I think, useful, my favorite scripts that I use. And we'll get to that in just a minute. But before I get too far down that road, let me just mention a couple things. One, I'm joined in the chat by Mr. Cameron May. Appreciate Cam for helping me out. So as you have questions, feel free to put those in between Cam and myself. We'll do our best to get your questions answered. I've been working with Cam for a lot of years, so I'd encourage you to check out some of his webcasts and also follow him on X. Or me on X as well. So we post additional content throughout the week on X at Brent Moore CS, at Cameron May CS, and there you go. Just remember the information today is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered an individual recommendation or personalized investment advice. Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as the sole means of investment research. And for the sake of simplicity, any examples in this presentation aren't going to take into account commissions or other transaction fees. Past performance of any security or strategy does not guarantee future results or success. All investing involves risk, including potential risk of loss. Depending on some products, it's even more than your initial investment, but we'll be dealing with stock examples today, and that's all they are example trades. Past performance of any security or strategy does not guarantee future results or success. I see some familiar names in the chat. Glad to have you here, and those of you watching on a recording, hey, we're glad to have you here as well. So that's great. So let's head on over to the Thinkorswim platform and just look at the market real quick. This is the S&P 500, down a little bit today. You know, you can see this is a 6-month chart, but you can see the trend is well intact. If I look at today's action, down for the day, but it's important to keep perspective, of course, of what you're looking at different time frames. And when put within this perspective, a day's move doesn't make that big a difference. And that ties right in to what I want to talk about. And that is when you're trying to judge the performance of a stock or a index or any other security type thing or index, you're always kind of confronted with this question of what is the appropriate time frame. You go too short, it becomes kind of maybe more noise than anything. You go too long, maybe you're missing out of the most, where the market is really going now, and most of it was history. And so we're trying to make a balance between that. So let's go and let's talk about, I want to talk about top-down analysis here just for a sec, top-down investing, and then we'll get to the scripts I'm talking about as well. So let me go over here, and I just want to kind of make a visual for you. Because often when we're looking at a stock, we just kind of go, hey, I heard about XYZ stock or whatever the stock is on the news, and I'm interested in it, or so-and-so recommended this stock, or I do a search, or I see the graph on the stock. But sometimes an approach that people will take is what we'd call a top-down analysis. And a top-down analysis is basically just starting very broad, and then kind of narrowing down. So you can start, what's broad? Well, we could say the market's broad, or we can narrow that down a little bit more, and we can say you can look and sectors are more of a broad classification. And the theory is if you find stocks that are within a particular stronger sector, it's easier for the stocks within that sector to do well. There may be anomalies along the way. You may have a terrible sector, a sector that's doing very poorly, and you may have some outstanding stocks within that sector. But in general, often we'll liken it to swimming downstream versus upstream. You're swimming downstream when the sector is doing well and you find your stock. And then you can narrow it down more, individual industries. Well, we're getting a little bit more specific when we go to a specific industry, and you can talk about sub-industries or things like that. I'm not spelling very well here, am I? Industry. And then eventually we hone in and on the individual stock there. That's kind of what we mean when we talk about top-down analysis there. And so there's different ways to do it, but if you're trying to assess how strong a sector is or how strong an industry group is or something like that, often there's different measures you can use. You could use measures like a relative strength, okay? Well, we look at relative strength sometimes, but often I think a great way to do it is just compare the performance of one to another. And you can do that on Thinkorswim. There's some scripts there that sometimes I'll pull up that one says just percentage change, and you can there's another one that's percentage change since. So what I'm going to talk about is a column script. Now there's different scripts on Thinkorswim. Some are maybe on the chart, okay? But today we're going to focus on column scripts. You can look at a column script here. You can also go to the Market Watch tab and add your column scripts here. It doesn't matter where you look, the functionality of those are going to be the same. So if I click on the year and I click on customize, it allows me to choose what's there. Right now I have one that's percentage change and percentage change since. Conveniently, the percentage alphabetically kind of just sorts to the top of the list here, but percentage change is today's change. Well, when I was talking earlier about finding that right time frame, if you're trying to truly find a stronger sector, more often than not, most people aren't talking about today necessarily. On the other end of the spectrum, we may not say, well, what's been doing best for the last year? Maybe that's too long. So often we'll try and find some intermediate time frame. Now, I'm not here to tell you what that time frame is, but very often it'll be maybe 1 month or 3 months or maybe 6 months, somewhere in there. One limitation of the pre-generated categories is if you do the percentage change since, it gives you some choices, 5 days, 20 days, those are popular, 1 month, 6 months, like there's no 3 month there. What if you want to put in your own time frame? Well, you can use a script. And I'm going to share a script with you today. And not only is the script going to give us the percentage return, it's also going to kind of give us a relative performance as compared to the S&P 500. Notice when you look at this script, the red numbers just means it's down and green numbers mean it's up. But if I look at some custom scripts that I have a 1 month and 3 month performance here on this, and I'll share this script with everybody. And let me go to, and what I'm going to look at first is just for sectors. I'm going to go to public watch lists. So you guys all have these. There's nothing special about these public lists. These are available to everybody here. Go to public and then S&P 500 sectors indices. And I can see the different sectors. And if you do that, you got to add a description column. Otherwise, you're going to be left with these symbols, which you're not going to know what to do with. I don't know what to do. I don't know which is which. So add in a description column. You can do it the same way. Just click on the little gear, customize it, and add in description. It's under the D's, description. Okay. But here, these are giving me, say, a 3 month return. And I have a 1 month return here. And we can modify that if we want. I'll show you how to modify the script later. But for now, let me just mention this. The red doesn't mean down and green means up. The red means underperforming a benchmark. In this case, our benchmark is the S&P 500, but you can change that. I'll show you where to change that later. And green means outperforming the benchmark. So in terms of what sectors have been doing the best lately, well, you got to define what lately is. If I want 3 months, I can go, information technology. Let me just shrink that down just a little bit. The information technology has been the best over the last 3 months. Communications, second best. Utilities, and then towards the bottom, we have this. Now, look at industrials. Industrials, 1.95, about 2% up over the past 3 months, mostly flat, we'll say. But it's showing red because that's underperforming the S&P 500 as a whole. Now, you may be thinking, well, Brent, if it's compared to the S&P 500, if the S&P 500 is kind of average, wouldn't we have like 5 or 6 green and 5 or 6 red? No, just remember though that the S&P 500 is market cap weighted and there's more stocks. It's not equal representation of all the sectors in there. There's more IT stocks in there than say utility stocks on that, okay? So that's kind of the starting point. You got to pick your time frame on here. But the purpose of the top-down analysis is we could say if we're looking for an individual stock, first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the better performing sector. And for our purposes today, I'm going to look, for this initial example at least, I'm going to look at 1 month, a 1 month return, and say, what sectors have been the best over the last month? Hey, utilities have been the best over the last month. You know, there may be different narratives as to why. One narrative that a lot of people will talk about on that is, hey, this whole AI economy is going to demand a lot more energy and therefore utilities are going to outperform. Whatever the reason, we can see utilities have been the best performing sector over the last month, along with kind of neck and neck with IT, and then just a little bit about ahead of healthcare. Materials, not so much, and you can see some of the other laggards there. So first of all, let me share the script with you and then talk to you about how to add the script if you want. To share the script, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over here. I'm going to go to custom, and I'm going to click over here, and I'm just going to share this script. Now, this script is going to be a 1 month return. Okay. So let me click share. Let me click that. And so I'm going to put it in the chat for those of you watching live. Now, if you're watching in the on an archive, what I'll do is, let me just click OK here, 1 sec. What I'll do here is I'm just going to put it in the scratch pad. And you guys can pause this if you want, and you would just write down the code. Really, you need everything from the exclamation point past section. Exclamation point WP 7CZDDS. Okay, and it is case sensitive, by the way. Okay, and there we go. So that's the 1 month script. I will do the same for the 3 month script, but my point being is you can we'll talk about customizing that to something else if you want to. Let me go to where I was and go here, and let me go to the 3 month, and I'll share that script with you if you're interested. And I appreciate Cam for reminding us that these scripts are not guaranteed for timing or accuracy. Let me just type in here 3 month script, and then let's talk about how you load those scripts if you're not familiar. I'll do that fairly quickly. Let me click OK, put that in the chat. For those of you watching live, for those of you on the recording, the second one will be the 3 month script. So there we go. That one is exclamation point OCP4A3G6. Okay, so there's the 2 scripts. Now, what do you do once you have the script? Whether you can just copy the script from what I posted in the chat, or you can type it in if you are watching on a recording. Go up to the little gear in the upper right, click where it says open shared item, and then you just simply paste it in or type it in. Again, you don't need to, you can have the whole thing if you want in there, but really all you need is exclamation point and everything after that. And then what you do is you click on preview. You can title it whatever you want, make it make sense to you, so you know what it is. Don't title it, October 9th or something, because in 3 weeks you're not going to know what October 9th was, what the script was. And then you click on import. Where will you find the script? Well, it depends on the type of script. On these column scripts, you'll find them listed among the other columns. So once you've imported it, you just click on your gear, click on customize, and you see the list. You'll see it listed there. Where? It depends on what you titled it. If it's a chart script or something like that, you can simply go and, like, let's say it's a study, a custom study or something like that. Well, you can just then go up to your studies and look at your studies, and you'll have your scripts there. Okay? So that's where you find your scripts. Hopefully that is helpful to you there. Now, I discovered something today, everybody, and you guys may all know this, and I may have just been in the dark. I'm sure Cam knows this because he's very knowledgeable on the Thinkorswim platform. I did not know you could save these columns here. In other words, when you go like this and it open up, you'll see this leather field right here. This is a newer thing. That hasn't always existed. And so if you create a symbol, description, 1 month return, 3 month return, or whatever, it doesn't matter what you put in there, you can click right on here, and then you can just save the column set as. And then in the future, if you want to look at something else, okay, then you're not going to have to hunt and find it in the future. So I created a few today, and so if I want to change, I just go, boom, I change it, and it automatically changes all those with it. So it's pretty slick in that regard. Now you'll see on this one, I actually have a 5-day return, a 1 month, 3 month return as well. It's a really, as Chris said, that's a nice new feature. And that wasn't always been the case there. And so it sounds like Cam already showed you guys this, which is great, but I'm sure there's some that maybe didn't see that, and maybe it's news to you on that. So this is something that's been asked for a long time, I know, but hey, it's there right now. One other thing I would say on this is, just out of curiosity, if the difference between these scripts over here and, say, the Market Watch tab, quotes page, I said they were the same. Well, you have more real estate over here typically. If you're opening up this page, you got a lot of room for a lot of columns. If you're just kind of using this over here, typically I don't have it open that far, and there's not as much real estate. So for example, when I did mine, and you don't need to do it this way, but I just did MW for Market Watch to know there's a lot of columns here. If I try and add that many columns onto this page, there you go. Okay, it's just not going to have enough real estate if I try and use that Market Watch column list with, like, I don't know how many columns there are there, 10 columns or something on this isn't going to work. Okay, so that's a little bit of an aside, but let's go back to our top-down analysis. And for our purposes, what I'm going to do is I'm starting with our sector analysis, and I'm just going to look at the 1 month return. Now, some of you may want to go a little longer, 3 month. 5-day would probably be a little bit more of a momentum play. You can see that right there. And I can see what's been the top performer. Well, I'm going to use that description there. Utilities and IT. We already mentioned that, utilities and IT. Well, let's do utilities. Well, if we start there, then we have the choice in our top-down analysis of going to you can go to your actual individual sectors industry groups if you want. In other words, click here, go instead of public S&P 500 sector indices, it's very similar in name, sectors and industries. And then you can scroll down and I can find, if I wanted to just look in utilities or something, I can go to just the utilities here and see which sectors. Hold on one sec. Let me just sort this by and then I can look at which sectors are there. So these are all sectors, which industries are within the utility sector. You can see those listed. So those are a couple different watch lists that I use quite frequently, is particularly the sectors one. Now, some of you may be going, well, what if I want to invest in the sector directly? Well, that's where some investors will invest in ETFs. I'm not going to talk about ETFs today. Just realize that we have a Trader Talks in Today's Market on Fridays at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, where they talk about ETFs every week. Okay. But could you, if you wanted to, create your own personal watch list, say, of sector ETFs and use this as an approach to investing? Yeah, you could. You could. All right. Now, here's my next kind of step in the process. We identified the sectors we're going to look at here. And this is just taking a relative performance approach. It's not the only way to do it. There's lots of ways to trade. There's more fundamental ways to trade. There's, more technical ways to trade. There's contrarian investors who would try and find those stocks maybe that have been beaten down or not doing as well right now. But in terms of kind of more of a traditional relative performance, what the assumption is that we're going to invest into strength with the idea that the strength is going to continue for some time. Now, it may not. You may find something that's strong now and it may completely flip the script tomorrow. But the theory is you find something that's been strong and we're going to ride that wave as long as we can there. So let's look at utilities here. Now, one suggestion I would make to you is you create your own list of the different sectors. And here's what I mean by this, of stocks in the sectors. For example, if I want to look at utility stocks, of course, I can go to by industry, click on utilities, and do this, and I'm going to get a bazillion utilities stocks there, okay? But most of them are going to be very, very small, penny stocks or the like, okay? So therefore, what I have done is I've just created my own list of S&P 500 stocks that are in each individual sector. Okay, so I have S&P 500 utilities. Now I know I'm just looking at bigger companies, that is S&P 500 companies that are in the utility sector. And then if I want to do the same thing, actually, let me do that. Let me change this here to, clicked on the wrong thing. I got to get used to this new. This new column here. There we go. So let me do this. Then if I want to, if you bring it up, we'll let it, it's going to take a sec to load. Then what you can do is you can sort by any column you want. And if I stick with, say, the 1 month thing that I was looking at earlier and saying that's the time frame you can just click on this and sort by a month. So that's low to high. If I click on it again, high to low, and I can look. And in fact, we're going to see some of those some of you have been typing in symbols in here. Myron typed in Constellation Energy. Here you go. Now, we're not necessarily going to blindly invest in these. You can click on it and you can go, well, that seems a little bit extended right now. Maybe that's not meeting your rules here on this. But you can go down the list and find others that maybe do. This one has a little bit downward momentum now because we've been looking at the last month. You may be looking for something that looks more like a buy. Oh, look, here we have kind of this plateau here, possible bounce off support down here, and some upward momentum down today, but we have that nice little bounce support level. Maybe that's the stock that we're going to do. You can use whatever technical analysis you want to do here on this to do that, but that's a top-down analysis. Starting with the sector, AES may have never crossed your mind before this, but using the top-down, now it's on the radar there, okay? So let's go and let's talk about what if we want to tweak the script here a little bit. And let's say you want a 4-month return or something. Well, you can do that. It starts with the script. Let me click on Customize. You can see your scripts listed right here. Let me go to, I'm just going to click on, I'm going to click on 1-month return here just to illustrate. Okay. Now, here's the script. Now, if you want to type in your script, you can from scratch. That's no problem. If you want to create your own script, you can. These days, unless you're a programmer, I would suggest a lot of people may decide to use AI to create their own scripts there. But if you have a script like this and you want to tweak it, I don't want you to be intimidated by that. You can change it. You can change things like, oh, maybe I don't want red and green colors there. And we can change that. Maybe I don't want my benchmark to be the SPX. Maybe I want it to be the IndieX or something like that. I can do that. How do I do that? I'm in the ThinkScript editor. You can just simply change. Here's your benchmark right here, SPX. If I wanted IndieX, change SPX to IndieX, okay? That is as simple as that. Now, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to put it back to SPX, but that's a way to change what the benchmark is. And then if it's green, it means it's outperforming that benchmark. If it's red, maybe it means it's underperforming that benchmark. Maybe you have a list of a list of smaller cap stocks in your portfolio. Well, maybe you'd use the RUT there on that. Okay, so it's easy to edit in here. Now, the part that may be a little more confusing on this is the 1-month script. What is this? Well, this is basically, the script basically uses this. And I didn't originally make the script, but it's been passed around and other people have created it and I use it. And just like I share it to you, you're free to use it now. 21 days is kind of the average number of trading days in a month, right? Companies trade, stocks trade on weekdays, not on weekends. And so that's kind of an average. And there's different days a month, different days and different numbers of months and whatnot. So 21 is kind of an average number. If I wanted this to be 2 months, what would I do? I would take the 21 days, which is in 2 spots, and change that, multiply it by 2. 42 would be 2 months. 6 months, well, you'd take 6 times 21, and you'd come up with 126. You could type in 126. Or for 3 months, Kelly said 63 in the quarter. So you can pick your time frame. If you wanted to do a 5-day, and I'll save you the effort, I'll share the 5-day script with you as well. But I actually didn't have the 5-day. I created it. I did it just exactly telling you doing what I'm doing right here on this. And I changed this from 21 to 5 for 5 days. Okay. So that's how you can change the time frame on those. I'm hoping that Hoping that makes sense to you there. Now, I mentioned changing the benchmark. I mentioned changing the time frame. Colors. You can change the colors. I think for most people, the green and red makes sense. But if you don't want that, you can change that. Where it says color green, if I wanted it to be blue, and there's limited colors in there. You can look and see, but if I go color instead of green, it gives me the choice. I start typing, I put a B, it says color black. Well, black wouldn't make much sense probably because it would just blend into the background. I could do color blue there if I wanted to. And then my script would be blue on that. And I could apply that. And then, let me just move this out of the way here. And this, I think, is going to load. We'll give it a sec here. Now you can see it turned blue. Maybe you like that. So I'm going to cancel this, actually. Is that? Okay. Well, I can turn it back to green here. Once I applied it, it's stuck here. So I'm going to go back to green on this. Moral of the story, though, is don't be intimidated by this. Once you've changed it, let's say you do something with the 5-day, you can rename it there. If you want to do a completely new one, you can copy and paste here. So if you know you want to change it, before you make the changes, before you click apply or OK, just click cancel if you want to go back to the original one. Okay. You can copy this and then do it on a new one as well there, okay? So, but let me share with you the 5-day script. I'll save you the effort of having to create it. And let me go here, 5-day. We'll click on share. We'll go 5-day return. Click share. Boom. And I'm going to put it in the chat. And just to remind you again, scripts are not guaranteed for timing or accuracy. And for those of you watching on a recording, let me go to that scratch pad one more time. And we'll add the 5-day on there as well. I'll make that a little bigger for you. 1 month, 3 month, 5-day. So that's how that works. Okay, so we've talked about modifying that script there. Now, the approach I took today, is this kind of top-down approach on this. You don't have to use a top-down approach. I mean, you can go directly to a list of stocks. Let's say I want to go to the, instead of utilities, I can go to one of my own personal watch lists here. Fair enough. I could go to, a public watch list as well. And let's say I want to go to S&P 100. That's a list I use quite often because those are pretty liquid, but I want to see the top performers in that list. I can then, top performers of the last 5 days in the list. Okay, we'll do that. And then we'll let it, they take a little while to load. You are, by the way, limited on the number of custom column fields you have because the system takes, it's calculating your script to come up with these. And so they have to limit it somewhere. So if you do, say, the Russell 2000 and you have 2,000 stocks and you have 3 columns, that would be 6,000 calculations it'd be having to do. It will limit you. And so at some point it will say custom script limit, custom expression limit reached or something to that effect. So now let's go and question, is there a way to create a watch list of those companies directly? Yeah, if you go and come up with a list of stocks or something, you can, well, you can create a watch list. I think you mean maybe from a scan. So this list right here is, or if I go to the Market Watch, this list right here is based on whatever watch list you have right there. That is a watch list already. But if you do a scan for different parameters there and come up with stocks, let me just pretend this is a new list or something like that. And we come up with some results. No matching symbols. I picked the wrong one there. Okay, I come up with some stocks and I want to save that as a watch list. Yes, you can. Just click on here and save it as a watch list there. Okay. So this is where you would save it as a watch list there on that. Okay. Now, I guess, but yeah, in fact, before to my prior point, you see, I've got 100. It doesn't like all the scripts. So this little error message just says I have too many on here. And the way to deal with that, there's a couple ways. One is to not have so many columns. I have 3 columns here. Another is not use so much big a list. Now, maybe you say, I want to use the S&P 500 over there. You'd maybe have to break it up into 2 in that case there. And it's thinking, it's coming about. At a certain point, even if you give it a long time to think, it won't come up with everything. But you could do like S&P 500 A to L and then M to Z or something like that, if that's a persistent problem there. Question, can we show please again how to get this 5-day return onto the watch list? Okay, once you have the script, once you import it by clicking on the gear, clicking on open shared item, paste it in here, clicking on preview, naming it to whatever you want, and then importing it, then it will just be available right here when you customize your column, right there. And your new script will be sitting right there. Okay. So let's see. Okay. All right. So let me just kind of I think Deepak, I want to address a question Deepak has, and it's one that I alluded to indirectly before. I said, I encourage you to create that watch list of just say utility stocks are in the S&P 100 or S&P 500 and IT stocks are in the S&P 500. It's super quick. What you do is, first of all, let me just go here. Let me remove my filters. You just go to the scan, go to scan in public S&P 500, intersect with by industry, say real estate, here we'll use an example, select all real estate. Then when I run this search, run this scan, I then have this saved. I mean, this is a scan. I don't have it saved. That shows me real estate stocks are in the S&P 500. Then I can go up to here and save the scan query, S&P 500 real estate. Then I want to do now, next one. All I do is I just change this right down here and say do healthcare. And then I run this again, and then I just save the scan again, and then I have S&P 500 healthcare. There's 11 sectors. And if you do that for each one, it's probably going to take you, once you get it set up, know what you're doing, probably going to take you 5 minutes. And then they're permanently going to be there for you. And I find it very helpful. So, you can do what you want, but that's my suggestion for you on that in terms of making life easier. Okay. All right. So that's what I want to share with you today. We went through this new script that at least new to some of you that shows the performance over various time frames. We talked about some different time frames. We talked about maybe trying to find an intermediate term time frame, but we also showed you how you can customize to whatever time frame you want. I shared with you 3 separate time frames that the 5-day, the 1 month, the 3 month, but you can adjust those to what you want. We showed you how to adjust the benchmark, the coloring if you want. And really my message to you is don't be intimidated by these think scripts. Creating a new code from scratch, it could be overwhelming, no doubt, but modifying existing code isn't that beyond the realm of possibility there. That's what we showed you today. So I want to thank you for joining me. A reminder, coming up next, selecting an option strategy. I think Connie Hill's teaching that, if I'm not mistaken. Selecting an option strategy. That's going to be at the top of the hour. Number 2, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, this is on the Trader Talks channel. I encourage you to subscribe to the Trader Talks channel. Why? Because that way you're going to see the content that you want to see. There are millions of videos on YouTube. And how do you, unless you look specifically each time, what you want videos that are of interest to you to come up. And the ones, when you subscribe to the channel, you're more likely going to see videos that are of more interest to you there. And so make sure you do that and find those. So, hey, appreciate you all for joining me today. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks, Cam, for helping me out in the chat. And we'll see you all same time next week. Bye-bye, everybody.